Greetings, colleagues. Do you attend meetings? I know, who doesn't? But what's the lexicon for a business English meeting? What words and terms do we often encounter in a meeting? If you're struggling to understand the procedures of the meeting, want to improve your business English vocabulary, or just want to get ready for that next round of meetings, then this is the video for you. We'll go through 44 common terms used in meetings and give some examples for each. Let's level up your business English.
Now, the main point here is we don't get Jimmy Chitwood back playing ball. We don't have a prayer.
Main point. A main point is the most essential point, the meat of your argument. So especially if you are giving a long speech or you're talking for a few minutes or several minutes, when you get to the end, you might want to summarize what your main point was. So in conclusion, I think we should hire Nancy. She would be an excellent candidate for this position.
Wouldn't it be in the meeting minutes?
Minutes. If it's a formal meeting, then there may be minutes taken. That means that somebody records basically the notes of the meeting. And it doesn't have to be like word for word. It depends on who is taking the minutes. Usually it's the secretary. It could be, if it's a board meeting, it's probably the company secretary. If it's a committee, maybe the committee as the secretary. In normal business meetings, we probably don't take minutes. But if it's a formal meeting, if it's a government committee, government agency, maybe they're required by law to take minutes. A lot of times a board meeting is required by the bylaws or by the statutes that they would probably have to take minutes. Now, some may be more detailed than others, but it's at least a summary of what happened at the meeting. What was discussed? Was there a vote? What was decided? What directions did they give? That sort of thing. It's not the chair that's responsible for the minutes because the chair is very busy during the meeting. The company secretary, for example, that will be responsible for the minutes. And it's good if you're doing that on a regular basis that they are consistent. Some can be more detailed or less detailed, but you want to be consistent from meeting to meeting and not vary widely.
Mr. President, I second the motion to postpone the vote on independence for a period of time sufficient for the writing of a declaration.
A motion. A motion is a formal proposal. So if we're having a formal meeting, then maybe one member will make a motion or they will move. If we use it as a verb, we'll say move. The noun is a motion. So I move that we fire the CEO. Or a motion has been made that we terminate the CEO's contract.
I second the motion.
A lot of times if you have a motion, you need to have a second. A second person that agrees with that motion. So depending on how the meeting is run, but if you're following like Robert's Rules of Order, which is a popular way, a very common way to run a formal meeting, and it can be modified to suit the needs of the meeting, the committee or the company, whatever it is. But under those, when someone makes a formal motion, the chair will first ask, is there a second? And then someone else in the room might say, I second that. I agree with that motion, and I agree to second that motion. And if there's not a second, then depending on the rules, but maybe the motion is just ignored, because there hasn't been a second. If a second person is not interested in it, then it's not going to pass. We don't want to waste our time with it. But if it was seconded, then okay, we'll consider this motion, however that is under the rules.
Our objective is to win the war.
Objective. This is a common business English term. What is your objective? What is your main desire? What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to reach? My main objective in this meeting is to find a new client, or my main objective is to meet potential clients. I don't expect that I'm going to make a sale today, but I do want to meet potential clients and then set up the sale in the future.
Though I doubt anyone can point out the actual provision to me.
Point out. Point out is to draw attention to something. I do want to point out on page 3 of the contract, it has this provision, and that's not going to be acceptable to us, or I don't feel comfortable with that. I do want to point out that, Nancy has a tremendous experience in this area. She's done this 5 times before.
Perhaps I will make you my proposal for Galahad's position.
Proposal. So this is a decision or course of action that was suggested, was proposed. Maybe similar to a motion, but it could be maybe less formal than a motion. Motion is generally much more formal. But a proposal is just an idea, suggestion that was proposed by someone.
The Court of Inquiry has come to a recommendation on this matter.
Recommend. So when someone advises a decision, a course of action, I recommend that we hire this person, or I recommend we don't hire this person. I recommend we stop using this vendor and we find somebody else to replace them.
So, to summarize, you have a minuscule revenue stream.
Summary, or summarize if we want to use it as a verb. A brief statement on the main points, or to make a brief statement.
This task was appointed to you, Frodo of the Shire.
The ring was entrusted to me. It's my task.
Task. We can use task as a verb or a noun. So a noun is basically a job or an activity, something that has to be done, has to be completed. Or we can use it as a verb when we say, I'm going to task John with following up with the client. That is, I'm giving a task to John. I'm assigning a task to John. John has been tasked with following up with the client, to contact the client and find out, whatever information we want. Or I have 5 tasks to do today, 5 things that I need to get done today. We'll often hear about task management programs, task management software. What's your task management system? There's lots of apps for that. Other people will just use pen and paper or an Excel file, but you have to keep track of all your tasks.
You want to talk to me? Let's talk face to face.
He wants to meet you face to face.
Face-to-face meeting. So a face-to-face meeting is generally an old-fashioned meeting. You're meeting face-to-face, in person. You're sitting down with them, talking to them. Now, as opposed to a video conference or a virtual meeting. Or sometimes I've heard it called an iConference, internet conference. So all of those would be, through the computer, through the internet. And it's not like a phone call where you're just hearing the audio, but you do get to see their face if they turned on their web camera. But ideally, everyone has their web camera on, and so you do get that benefit of seeing their face, seeing their facial features, and you can tell a lot. That you can tell a lot more when you're seeing someone's face and discussing something with them than if you're just hearing their voice. You can see, do they look happy? Do they look puzzled? Are they getting angry or irritated? Even if you are meeting virtually, you can learn a lot of those kind of facial clues or body language, which can be very important when communicating. It's time to conquer that like button and make it ours. If you enjoyed this video, then take the next step and watch this video on business English phrases for running a meeting. Continue your journey.